Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are opening a door that usually stays firmly shut.
Firmly locked, really.
Yeah, exactly. Because we aren't just looking at history today, and we aren't just looking at psychology, we are going back to the late 60s.
To a very dimly lit living room in Elmira, New York.
Right, where a writer named Jane Roberts is about to go into a trance, and a personality named Seth is about to drop some knowledge that is, frankly, a little chilling, a little humorous, and entirely mind-bending.
It is a fascinating session. We're looking specifically at section 398 of the Seth material.
Right. And to set the scene for you, because context is everything, the date is Monday, March 11th, 1968. It's 9:00 p.m.
Just think about the vibe of 1968 for a second. The world outside that living room is shifting violently.
Oh,
We
absolutely.
have the counterculture explosion, the Vietnam War is raging, the civil rights movement is reshaping society, the structures of the known world are being questioned literally everywhere.
Exactly. And here, in this quiet domestic setting in upstate New York, the structures of reality itself are being questioned. It feels kind of appropriate, doesn't it?
It really does. The world is chaotic, so let's ask an energy personality essence how the universe actually works.
And the fact that it was 9:00 p.m. on a Monday, it's so normal. They weren't on a mountaintop. They were just home.
Just a typical Monday night.
Right. But before we get into the heavy metaphysics of that Monday night, we need to make sure you know where this incredible material comes from.
Yes, crucial point.
This is published by the New Awareness Network. If you are listening to this and you find your jaw hitting the floor, which you probably will, you need to go to sethcenter.com/the early sessions.
That is definitely where the real treasure is.
Ah.
Specifically, this session is from the early sessions, book 8.
Absolutely. The books are the primary source, and we are really just guides standing at the entrance.
And of course, a quick mandatory reminder that this deep dive is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes. We are here to explore, not to endorse or preach.
Okay, vibe check. This session feels different to me.
How so?
Usually, if you read Seth, he is very logical, very systematic. He builds arguments piece by piece.
True.
But here, things get a little messy. We're dealing with dying fathers, sick children, and a medium Jane who gets so entangled with the energy by the end of the night that she literally can't get back out.
It is a session that deals heavily with the edges of existence. You know, in our culture, we like to think of life as a binary switch.
Yeah, you're on or you're off.
Exactly. You're alive or you're dead. You're born or you haven't been conceived yet.
Right. The light switch theory. Click on, click off.
But what Seth proposes here is that it's not a switch, it's a dimmer. And sometimes the wiring gets crossed.
That is the hook for today. We are going to explore this central mystery of this session. Can you be dead before you actually die?
And on the flip side, can you be born while your old self is still refusing to leave the building?
It sounds like a ghost story, but it's actually a deep lesson on the mechanics of the soul. We are going to look at Rob's father, a dying woman named Miss Callahan, and a sick boy, to understand how personality enters and leaves physical reality.
So let's jump right into part 1, the long goodbye.
Or as I like to call it, the dimmer switch of death.
A cheerful title to start us off.
I try to keep it light, but seriously, the context here is Rob, that's Jane's husband, Joseph, he's been worrying.
He's worrying about his elderly father, and he's worrying about this woman, Miss Callahan, who had actually died the previous week.
Right, he's wondering about their mental state right before the end.
And this is interesting because Rowan hasn't actually asked Seth these questions out loud.
No, he hasn't.
Seth starts the session by saying he often answers Rob's unasked questions because he picks up on his nervousness and his emotional state.
Which is creepy in itself. I know what you're worrying about, Joseph.
It is the nature of their connection. But the answer Seth gives is profound. He explains that consciousness doesn't fully express itself physically, even at the best of times.
Right, we are never 100% here.
But in the case of Rob's father, or Miss Callahan, that percentage drops drastically.
So Seth says the overall consciousness isn't gone, it's not destroyed, it just expresses less of itself physically.
Correct. Let's look at the specific quote here. Seth says, "The personality is less and less apparent within the physical organism. The personality itself has not disintegrated. It has already largely decided to leave the system."
Decided to leave the system. That sounds so bureaucratic, like checking out of a hotel.
It does.
But it also implies agency, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
Mhm.
We tend to judge people by their current output. If you can't talk, if you can't remember my name, we assume you're gone.
Yeah, we equate the self with the immediate biological function.
Exactly. If the brain is firing at 100%, you are there. If it's firing at 40%, you are only 40% there.
But Seth is saying, no, the 60% that is missing isn't destroyed, it's just moved.
Exactly. Think about having bad reception on a phone call.
Okay.
The person on the other end is still talking. They are still complex and whole. Their life is still vibrant. But the signal here is breaking up.
Right.
Seth takes it further, though. He says the signal is breaking up on purpose.
So it's not just the phone breaking, it's the person slowly hanging up.
In a way, yes.
Hmm.
Think about moving house. You don't move everything in 1 second. You move a few boxes, then the furniture.
You might sleep in the new house, but come back to the old apartment to clean up the last few things.
Seth is suggesting that death is a phasing out.
Mm.
The soul makes inroads into the next reality, while the body is still finishing up here.
So when we see an elderly person, maybe with dementia, or just someone who seems halfway there or totally out of it.
Seth would say they literally are out of it. They are gathering energy in the next system. The lights are dimming here because they are brightening somewhere else.
That actually makes me feel a lot better. It's not just decay, it's a relocation process.
It reframes the tragedy of decline into a process of transition. But, and here's where it gets really interesting, Seth contrasts this fading out with a much weirder phenomenon happening at the other end of the spectrum.
At birth.
Yes.
This is part 2, the clingy ghost, or reincarnation glitches.
We usually assume that a baby is a fresh start, a completely blank slate, or at least a new chapter.
A fresh install of the operating system, new hardware, clean drive.
Exactly. But Seth says sometimes the uninstall process of the previous life didn't finish.
Oh boy.
He describes a situation where a reincarnating personality refuses to let go of their previous identity.
This image is hilarious to me in a dark way. You're a baby, you're in a crib, but your ego is still thinking about your job at the bank in 1920.
It creates a massive internal conflict. Seth uses a beautiful analogy here. He says, it is as if an artist found the last painting showing up over and over in the next one.
Oh, that's frustrating. You're trying to paint a sunset, and the portrait of the old guy keeps bleeding through the canvas.
Precisely. This is the haunted infant scenario. The new personality is aware of the old life, and the old ego is stubbornly holding on. It creates a huge lack of understanding. The inner identity doesn't realize it is taking a different guise.
It's an ego error. It's like showing up to your new job at Google, but you're still wearing your McDonald's uniform and you totally refuse to take it off.
You're trying to serve fries in a coding meeting.
Exactly.
And suffering ensues. Because the personality isn't adapting to the new reality. It's clinging. Seth suggests that the ego isn't just a biological function of the brain. It's a psychic structure that can be incredibly stubborn.
But why? Why would you cling to a dead life?
Fear. Attachment. Unfinished business. Imagine you were working on a masterpiece painting, and someone dragged you out of the room before you finished the last corner.
You'd be kicking and screaming.
You'd be thinking about that painting constantly.
So you get born into a new body?
And you're looking for your paintbrush. But your hands are tiny, you can't hold a brush, you can't even hold your head up. The frustration must be immense.
Seth says the inner identity does not understand that it is simply taking a different guise. It really thinks it's still the old person.
This explains perhaps why some babies are difficult or colicky for no medical reason, or why some children seem to have such distinct mature personalities immediately.
They are essentially adults trapped in small bodies, furious about the downgrade in autonomy.
Essentially. But Seth notes this is an error. It's a lack of understanding. The healthy way is to let go, to submerge into the new life, to accept the amnesia.
Right.
The amnesia is actually a mercy, and it allows you to start fresh.
So forgetting is a feature, not a bug.
Absolutely. If we remembered everything, we'd be paralyzed by the overlays. The artist found the last painting showing up over and over. You can't make new art if you keep painting the old picture.
That is a profound lesson for the living, too. How often are we reincarnating into a new day, but dragging the old self from yesterday with us?
Every morning, we wake up and we instantly load the worries from yesterday. We put on the old costume. We cling to the ego of the past. Seth is telling us to let it go. Be born anew. Don't be the haunted infant of your own life.
I love that. Don't be the haunted infant. That needs to go on a t-shirt. We have people fading out slowly at the end and people refusing to fade in at the beginning. It's a mess.
It's very complex. It shows that the borders between lives are porous. We aren't sealed units.
Speaking of sealed units, or the lack thereof, let's talk about Rob's dad, because this gets really personal. This is part 3, the case study of Rob's father.
This is a very poignant part of the session. Rob had a difficult relationship with his father. There was distance, a lack of communication.
Right.
And Seth drops a bombshell. He says, "You never knew your father. The man who was to have been your father left."
Whoa. Okay, if I'm Rob, I'm freezing up right there. The man who was to have been your father left. Does he mean he was adopted?
No, not biologically. He means spiritually. Seth explains that the main energy of the entity that was supposed to be the father left long ago. The personality that remained was a shell or a fragment.
That is heartbreaking, but it also explains so much.
Seth dives into the father's psyche. He says the father had the need from which creativity springs but couldn't express it. He was blocked.
And Rob is an artist, a painter.
Exactly. Rob's father couldn't paint, so what did he do? He took up photography.
And Seth makes a brutal pun here, or a metaphor. He says as a photographer, he was often out of the picture.
It's multi-layered. He was literally behind the camera, not in the scene. But metaphysically, he couldn't materialize himself fully in life.
Wow.
He couldn't manifest his personality. Seth says he was more of a passive mother figure than a father. His only attempt to make his being physical was through his love of machinery.
So he's tinkering with cameras and engines because he can't tinker with his own soul.
Precisely. But here is the redemption arc. Seth tells Rob, "He left you things to do in your own way. He did not leave you empty-handed."
This is the part that really got me. We usually think of inheritance as money or a house, maybe a gold watch. But Seth says Rob inherited the impetus to create.
The father had the drive, but not the ability. So that unfulfilled energy, that pressure, was passed to Rob. Rob became the artist his father couldn't be.
That completely reframes the whole relationship. The absent father, the distant man, actually gifted Rob the drive to be an artist because he left unfinished business.
It suggests that our talents might be the unresolved frustrations of our ancestors. We are essentially finishing their sentences.
That is deep. I am painting this because you couldn't.
And look what Rob did with it. He became an accomplished artist. He channeled the Seth material alongside Jane. He used that fuel to light a fire that is still burning today.
The father's failure, if we can call it that, was the fuel for the son's success.
It redefined success and failure entirely. From the entity's perspective, the big oversoul perspective, it was just a transfer of resources. Branch A is blocked, so move resources to Branch B.
Branch B being Rob, and Branch C being the other brothers, which we will definitely get to.
Yes.
But first, this brings us to perhaps the most mind-bending concept of the whole deep dive, the energy loan. This is part 4, the metaphysical bank loan. This involves a cousin named Ruth Butts and her son.
So we have a cast of characters.
Mm-hmm.
Rob's father, his 2 brothers, and this cousin Ruth. Seth reveals they are all part of the same entity or oversoul.
A cluster of souls.
Right. Now, remember we said Rob's father, the main spirit, had left the physical system and was waiting in the next reality.
Yeah, he's in the waiting room.
Well, he's not just sitting there reading magazines. He is active. Seth says he has loaned his energy to Ruth's son.
Okay, let's unpack this. Ruth's son is likely ill or developmentally challenged, right? Struggling to relate to physical reality.
Yes. The boy doesn't have enough vitality on his own to sustain his physical focus. So the spirit of Rob's father, from the other side, is providing additional vitality to keep the boy alive.
It's a battery jump, a spiritual jumpstart.
It's a loan. Seth is very specific. He says, it is a voluntary arrangement. The father's spirit is propping up the boy's life force.
But what are the terms of this loan? Is there interest?
The terms are survival. If the boy learns to relate to reality, if he figures out how to be here, he will eventually call on his own entity for fuel. He'll switch to his own power source.
And if he doesn't?
Then, when the remaining shell of Rob's father finally dies, the energy will be retracted, the loan is recalled, and Ruth's son will likely die.
That is heavy. So the boy's life is literally being sustained by the spare energy of a deceased relative.
A relative who is between systems. Seth says, if you have time left over, you help others. If a personality is between systems, it loans its energy to others.
I love this. It paints the afterlife not as a place of rest, sorry to anyone hoping for a long nap, but a place of active service. It's a spiritual economy.
It challenges our definition of individual. We think we run on our own gas. But Seth is saying, no, you might be running on a loan from your grandfather until you get your engine started.
It's crowdfunding. I'm not using this vitality right now. You borrow it.
And there is a fascinating detail here. Seth says, he has also served to you as an example, for you did not want to relate fully.
Wait, Rob didn't want to relate fully.
Seth drops this little nugget. Rob, like his father, had a hesitation about fully engaging with physical reality. The artist often retreats. Right. Into the studio, into the mind.
That makes sense.
By seeing the extreme version of this in Ruth's son, who couldn't relate, and seeing his father struggle, Rob was being taught a lesson. Engage. Don't drift away.
So the suffering of the cousin's son was also a lesson for Rob. It sounds a bit ruthless, doesn't it? Using a sick boy as a teaching moment.
From a strictly human perspective, yes, it seems cruel. But Seth operates from the perspective of the entity. The entity knows that physical life is just a blink of an eye. The suffering is temporary, the lesson is eternal. Seth calls this value fulfillment.
Value fulfillment.
Yes, growth, expansion, even through difficulty, especially through difficulty.
And the mechanism of the loan itself. Seth says, the main energy of the man you call your father left long ago. So the thing interacting with the boy is just a fragment.
Think of it like a computer program running in the background. The user has walked away, but the process is still running, donating CPU cycles to another task.
CPU cycles? You're full of analogies today.
I try, but it fits perfectly. The main energy is the user. The father personality is the program. It's running a subroutine called Help Ruth's Son.
And when that subroutine is done,
There'll be a joyous gathering together of his identity. The fragments reunite. The program closes. The user, the entity, integrates the data.
a joyous gathering. That sounds nice. It's not just fading into the dark. It's coming home to a party.
A party where you are the guest of honor and also all the other guests.
That is wild. Okay, my brain is starting to hurt, which leads perfectly into part 5, mosaics and bridges, because Seth is really tearing down the walls between people here.
He challenges the psychologist directly. He says personalities are not static things. They're not as nicely nor as neatly packaged out, one to a body. They constantly change.
I feel like psychologists would hate that. They like neat packages, diagnosis A, personality type B.
Seth calls them psychic gestalts. Identities merge, separate, and weave together like mosaics. We are not solid blocks. We are patterns that flow into each other.
And he goes back to the gifts Rob's father left. We mentioned the creativity for Rob, but he lists others.
Yes. For the young brother, the father left a sense of sweetness and innocence. For the middle brother, stubborn persistence.
I know that brother. We all know a brother like that.
And for the mother, Rob's mother, he left the important question. What had she done?
That sounds like a burden, not a gift.
For her development, it was crucial. Rob's mother was apparently a very forceful woman, very grounded in physical reality. She forced the father to relate. She was the anchor.
The ball and chain, maybe, from his perspective?
Maybe. But anchors are necessary. However, perhaps she was too certain, too righteous. The gift of the question, of self-doubt and introspection, was what she lacked.
Right.
The father's difficult behavior forced her to confront herself. Seth implies that even our conflicts are gifts if they lead to growth.
So he gave her the gift of humility, or interiority.
Exactly. He forced her to look at her own soul, not just the physical world she controlled so well. Rob needed to look out at the world. The mother needed to look in.
And the father helped them both by being exactly who he was. Broken, distant, and passive.
Yes.
And what about the father himself? Is he suffering?
Quite the opposite. Seth says he is happier than he has ever been. He finally has the solitude he always wanted.
Solitude.
Seth explains that Rob's mother forced him to relate to reality. She dragged him into the world, and he resented it. Now, in the space between, he enjoys the luxury of not reacting.
It's a chilling but comforting thought. He finally got his peace. And we are left here, using the bits of personality he discarded, the creativity, the stubbornness to build our own lives.
Weaving together of mosaics, as Seth puts it. No effect is meaningless.
Okay, we're approaching the end of the session, and this is where things get really visceral. Part 6, the entanglement.
We've been talking about high-level metaphysics, but suddenly the physical reality of the trance crashes back in.
Seth says, we're coming through so clearly that he, meaning Jane, is now in the process of learning how to disentangle himself from me.
This is rare. Usually Seth pops in, pops out. But the connection is too strong. Jane doesn't know how to let go.
It's like getting your foot stuck in a door that's closing.
Or merging with a current that's just too fast. Seth actually has to give Rob instructions on how to perform an emergency extraction.
The ritual. Tell us what Rob had to do.
Seth says, speak his name, his present name 3 times, and touch him.
Rupert, Rupert, Rupert. Or Jane, Jane, Jane.
Rob has to call her back. He has to ground her in her identity.
And it works.
It works, but it's jarring. Jane comes out of it disheveled. She's running her hands through her hair. She's confused. She says she felt like days must have passed.
But it had only been 90 minutes.
That time distortion is a classic sign of deep altered states. But the visual of Jane, looking wild, shaken by the intensity of the energy, it reminds us that this isn't just a parlor game. It takes a physical toll.
It really grounds the high-flying metaphysics in a slightly scary physical reality. You're channeling an entity, and sometimes you get stuck.
And there's a strange detail Jane mentions after she wakes up. She said she got something additional from Seth to the fact that my first cousin, Ruth Butts, was a masculine personality.
Wait, Ruth was a man?
In terms of energy, or perhaps a past life, Seth often refers to people by the gender of their whole self or entity, which can be fluid. He calls Jane Rupert, which is a male name.
All right, Rupert.
He implies that the essence of the personality might be male, even if the current biological form is female. It adds another layer to the gender fluidity of the soul. We wear these bodies like costumes. Sometimes you wear a suit, sometimes a dress. The actor underneath is the same.
And sometimes the actor forgets to take off the suit from the last play.
Exactly. The haunted infant again?
This whole disentangling scene really emphasizes the boundaries of the self. Jane's boundary dissolved. She needed Rob to verbally and physically rebuild it. This is your name, this is your body, come back.
It highlights the importance of the physical body. We often think of spirituality as escaping the body, but here, the body is the safety line, it's the ground. You need to come back to the ground.
It reminds us that we are here to be physical, not to escape it.
Correct. Seth says, there is no law that says that a personality must fully materialize within a given system, though it is usually wiser to do so.
Usually wiser. It's a gentle nudge. Hey, you're here for a reason. Don't half-ass it like Rob's dad did. All due respect to Rob's dad.
But even his half-assing served a purpose. That's the ultimate comfort of this session. You can't mess it up. Even your mistakes, your withdrawals, your unfinished business, it's all used. It's all recycled into the greater mosaic.
That is a relief, because I feel like I'm messing it up at least 30% of the time.
Only 30%. You're doing great.
I'm trying. So let's synthesize this. What does this all mean for us?
We've learned that death isn't a cliff edge. It's a dimmer switch. We've learned that birth can be a struggle of the ego, refusing to let go of the past.
We've learned that we might be running on borrowed energy from our ancestors, like a cosmic bank loan.
And we've learned that our personalities are gifts we leave behind for one another. We are not closed units. We are spiritual bridges.
The big aha moment for me is that connection. I am not just me. I am a collection of loans, gifts, and unfinished business from everyone who came before me.
And you are creating the loans and gifts for those who will come after.
That is a lot of pressure, actually.
For a lot of purpose.
True. So, to you listening out there, walk your bridge with confidence. You've got a lot of structural support you can't see.
And if you feel a little dim today, maybe you're just charging up for something else.
Or maybe you just need a nap. Physical reality is exhausting.
That too.
So, here is our provocative question for you to chew on tonight. If your personality isn't a static thing, but a collection of energies and loans, who exactly are you right now?
And whose energy might you be borrowing to get through this day?
Yeah.
Are you running on your own fuel? Or is a grandfather somewhere between systems copying up your tank?
And who are you lending energy to? Maybe that friend who's struggling needs a little psychic Venmo?
A spiritual transfer?
Exactly. This has been a deep dive into the Seth material, specifically session 398.
We barely scratched the surface. If this piqued your interest, please go to the source. Support the publisher. Visit sepcenter.com/early sessions. Buy the books, read them. It's a journey absolutely worth taking.
And a final reminder that this show is distributed free of charge for educational purposes. We just want to share the wonder.
Indeed we do.
Thank you for joining us in the deep end. Try not to get your ego stuck in the door on the way out.
See you in the next dimension.
See you there.